Alright everybody, so here we are. I'm doing this kind of in the style I used to do those old KSP videos in. We even got the Outer Wilds music in the background, which makes this video 100 times better. So as you can see, we have very laggy gameplay in the background. Now I want to talk about this, the point of this video. Oh my god, actually it is really laggy. We didn't even see that in the OBS preview. Okay, so the reason it's laggy is because of Windows 11, and I'm going to explain all this. So my computer, which the one that I'm using right now, is a MacBook Air 2015 model. It has Intel HD 6000 graphics with an Intel i5 something. I do not remember what generation i5 it is, but I'm sure you can extrapolate it from the information. And as you can see, I'm running Windows 11 right now. As you can clearly see by the taskbar at the bottom of the screen that you're obviously able to see, I'm running Windows 11 right now. And I've had many issues with Windows 11 in the past. And before this, I was running Linux, right? So I made the executive decision to switch from macOS to Windows, and then switch to Linux. I've been using Linux for a very long time now. Linux on this computer is much more optimal. I'll explain why. However, I had to switch to Windows for reasons I'll explain in a second, and it's not been a good experience. So let me just explain everything. The reason that I switched to Windows in the first place was because of, well, Roblox Studio. As you guys know, I'm working on a game called A Wooden Universe, meaning I need access to Roblox Studio to make it, right? And before, I was using my other computer, but now that I have this computer with an external monitor, I would really like to use this one since there's much better performance. But I need a Windows. So I was like, oh, okay, well, most of my games ran fine on Linux. So I switched to Windows. I mean, the deficit, which I'll explain, shouldn't be that big of a problem. Turns out it is. So let me talk about the benefits of using Linux for this computer. Performance in the way that So whenever you're doing something involving 3D graphical tasks, your computer is running something called the Graphics API. And there's many of them, like OpenGL, DirectX. And in my case, the one that I do not have on the graphics card, the Intel graphics that are provided on Windows, does not have support for Vulkan graphics on this graphics card. And Vulkan graphics is a newer age graphics API. And I thought it shouldn't be that big of a deal. I have OpenGL, and OpenGL is the precursor to Vulkan. So I thought it would be fine, but it turns out the performance differential from Linux to Windows in terms of the graphics API was major. It was a very, very big difference. As you can see, the stuttering here did not happen on Linux at all. And yeah, I think that's the reason, but also compounding on that is that Linux just has much better performance in general because it doesn't have as much bloat. Like, for example, when just installing Windows on this computer, I use Rufus for burning ISOs because Rufus is superior in every respect. Changed my mind. And I had to check an option in the Rufus when it burns it. It has an option for Windows, thank you, whoever made Rufus, that allows you to bypass the secure boot checks, which are really stupid as well, but more specifically the Microsoft account requirements. So I do not have a Microsoft account on this Windows installation, thank God. And another thing with Windows is that it takes up a lot of space on my computer, because this is and one of the reasons I don't dual boot is that this MacBook Air only has 128 gigabytes of storage space, meaning if I were to dual boot, that would not be a lot of space for anything, and it wouldn't be worth it. And with the amount of space Windows takes, I have to pick. Like if I'm going to have Windows in the equation, I need to be using Windows or to not be using Windows, because Windows, from my experience, takes about 70 gigabytes of space on a raw installation, which is incredible. Like, that is a lot of storage space. However, in my experience, Ubuntu, which is what I used before and what I've had the best experience with, mainly because obviously ease of use, and you get to choose between Wayland and X11 really quickly. It makes things easier. It had much less storage space at 20 gigabytes. Just to put that in reference, Windows took like 50 more gigabytes to do literally less. And I mean, okay, I should clarify. Ubuntu does do less than Windows. However, it does it in a way that it's not really going to interfere with what you want it to do. And if you want it to do something that it's not doing, you tell it to do something instead of you, with Windows, telling it not to do everything except what you want it to do. I tried running Windows 11 Deep Loader, but then it ended up removing a bunch of contingencies. Like, I forget what it was. There's like a picture of a coconut in TF2 that if you removed it would break the entire game. It's kind of like that. I think I'm getting what the image is wrong, but it's something like that. And I'm going to talk about the performance differential in terms of Vulkan again. So the reason that happens is because Mesa 3D, which I'm not going to get too deep into because I don't fully understand myself. Basically, for the purposes that I care about, whenever you're on Ubuntu, there is no officially supported Intel graphics on Ubuntu or any other Linux distro. So what happens is you use the Mesa version. The Mesa is an open source driver place where the drivers for a bunch of graphics cards are open source and free. And for Mesa on Linux, there is Vulkan support in these graphics drivers, meaning I am able to use Vulkan, which has noticeable performance improvement. It's a very much noticeable performance improvement, as well as I can play games that require Vulkan support like No Man's Sky now, or well, I could, and I'm planning on switching back to Linux and doing another performance test just like this one. I was able to play No Man's Sky. I mean, I was able to. If you would have looked at my screen, you'd probably think I was just looking at like 4 pixels, genuinely, because it was that bad performing. But you know, it ran. I was able to see, open my menu, I played quite a bit of it until I uninstalled it, and it was a pirated copy, right? I'm just gonna admit it. I honestly don't really care. Nobody cares at this point. And with Linux, one issue you might think is, oh, well, what about Windows applications? Proton works fine. However, the reason I couldn't use that with Roblox, and I didn't try with Roblox Studio, which I might try now. However, if this doesn't work, I'm just going to be using Roblox Studio on my older, less performing computer, because I genuinely do believe Ubuntu is the future for me, and Linux in general is the future of operating systems. That is something that's very, very big on my mind, and yeah, but I will be trying Roblox Studio with Proton or Wine. I want to see what it does. I'm not quite sure. It could be helpful, maybe not. We'll find out, right? But yeah, most of my apps either have native Linux support or support Linux. Games I play like Subnautica, and Roblox has something called Sober, which is closed source, unfortunately. However, I get why they closed sourced it. They don't want Roblox to fix the problem. So I could play Roblox on Ubuntu as well. I could play Minecraft as native support, much better performance as well. On almost every single metric, I am experiencing better performance and better quality of life on Linux. There's a lot of features on Linux that I miss when switching back to Windows. But most notably, yeah, the biggest issue is definitely the performance and the bloat in the storage. And I'll give you guys a recommendation here. And if you're doing this on a MacBook Air, the Broadcom drivers, which are for your Wi-Fi, are the only proprietary driver on your system. So that means that Ubuntu doesn't have an open source version because the drivers are closed source. And what that basically means is that you have to allow them. And there is some issues with internet connection on those. So I would recommend, and especially during installation, you can't use internet either. I would recommend using a Wi-Fi adapter just to make things easier. I don't think there's much other talking points, but yeah, basically, if you're having an issue like this, honestly, Linux is probably always going to be your better choice. So, you know, hopefully this was able to provide some insight, and hopefully I'll have better performance in the next video.